Hey there, what's up? I'm Dr. Tony SLP, and you're listening to How to Be Seen, the podcast where a supportive community of marginalized women, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and creatives empower and inspire you to become successful in your life and business by showing up dripping in authenticity. If you like real, honest, raw advice from a self-love practitioner and a collective of women who've done the work, you're in the right place. I'm so grateful to have you here. All right, let's jump in. It is real easy for each and every one of us to wake up every day and just assume that it's going to be the same as yesterday and nothing's going to change. However, life can change in an instant. Back in April of 2024, this year, I found this out the hard way for myself as I was rushed to the emergency room to have life-saving surgery. And that life-saving surgery changed my life on a daily basis for the following 3 months afterwards. It was a life-altering situation that changed my day-to-day ability for myself and my family. Anyone who's ever had to live with an ileostomy, such as what I had, knows that on a day-to-day basis, you may be able to possibly leave your home and go out and somewhat look like everything is okay. But there's a lot that goes into it, and it's pretty heavy. Basically, when you're given an ileostomy, a portion of your small intestines is actually put outside of your body, where all of the excrement, the waste that is produced from what you eat, is put into a bag. And that bag has to be changed. Instead of using the facilities as you normally would, it could be a really difficult adjustment. My heart goes out to anyone and everyone who's had to live with such disability or impairment as a long-term situation. I got lucky in the fact that my situation was reversible. And so after having the reversal surgery, all of my parts have been put back inside of me, and I am forever grateful. Our lives can change in an instant for any reason. And many of us don't think about what life would look like if it were to change. And maybe we should. As a whole, maybe society would be that much more compassionate. But enough for me. Let's jump into this episode. Welcome, Alison. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're welcome. I'm excited as well. So, could you go ahead and give us a little information on your background, who you are, what it is you do?
Sure. I'm Alison Hayes, and I run Thriving While Disabled, which is it started as a blog and is now also coaching services and education related to disability, especially understanding the social welfare systems and really understanding the emotional impact of being disabled and how to live with that and create your best possible life while understanding and managing the way society responds to the minority identity of being disabled.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. What brought you to building the Thriving While Disabled business?
Yeah, it was the combination of my own personal experience and my partner experiencing a life altering injury. And so when he was injured, he watched me get him into the right doctors right away, navigate all of the insurance issues that everybody faces when things go wrong, and just saw how well I understood the system and pointed out to me that a lot of this was knowledge other people didn't necessarily have because I've come from a place of relative privilege. And so he encouraged me when I was thinking about where to go business wise as a next step. He really encouraged me on the path of helping others with disabilities because we are the largest minority in the US and possibly internationally,
Mm,
but we're so rarely recognized or considered as a minority identity.
wow. That's
Yeah.
enlightening. I'm sure many folks haven't actually thought about the disabled population being considered a minority for sure.
It's one of those things. It's actually at this point, 27% of the US population has some form of disability.
Mm,
So we're a huge portion of the population. The thing is, only about 30% of the disabled population has a visible or apparent disability. And a good percentage of people with non apparent disabilities are assumed to be abled.
mm,
And so we're dealing with the ableism in society and people not realizing that we're part of that minority
mm. Now, just
group.
to elaborate and clarify a little further for
Mhm.
those who may not understand or know, what is the difference between visible disability and invisible disability?
Okay, so invisible or non apparent disabilities are things that when you witness a person, you don't know that they have a disability. The really common examples of non apparent disabilities are most forms of mental illness, unless someone is actively in the midst of some kind of psychotic break
Right.
or other really severe episode where they're actively doing things that are very unexpected. You see them and you just are like, okay, that's just another person. For example, I have a condition, functional neurological disorder, where most of the time you cannot see anything. When I am symptomatic, it's anything from a slight limp to rocking back and forth or my hands clawing. So, in the moment of having symptoms, you can see it. But
Mm,
the rest of the time, nobody has any idea. So it's about where visible or apparent disabilities are things like a full-time wheelchair user
okay.
or a blind person walking around using a white cane. It's
Right.
where somebody has a tool, an accessibility tool that you recognize. On that front, glasses are accessibility tools, and they're the only accessibility tool so far that has become an accepted fashion statement.
Hmm.
All other accessibility tools are looked at only that way, and people generally are stigmatized for having and using them.
Right. Right. Wow. Haven't even thought about that because I do
It's a
wear
lot.
glasses as well. But
Yeah, it's
many
one of
folks
those
do wear them for fashion now. So, wow,
e
it's quite acceptable. Yeah.
exactly, but think about it, nobody thinks twice if you're wearing glasses, but if you have a cane or a wheelchair or any of the other visible signals, you get treated a little differently. Sometimes that's useful, sometimes it's not,
Right.
but you are othered.
So within the business of thriving while disabled, what exactly do you do the most, or what exactly do your clients come to you for the most, and what do you help them with?
Okay, my most frequent request and the assistance I offer most often is actually helping people apply for Social Security disability insurance or SSI, which is supplemental security income. People are aware of Social Security in the sense of retirement, but they're less aware of the disability program. Basically, these are the only programs in the US that provide money directly to people with disabilities. Pretty much all the other programs out there are low income supports in the form of like assistance with bills. So, Social Security disability programs are the way that people who are disabled and cannot work don't die. Basically, it provides the healthcare and the monthly income. That income is incredibly low. It's below poverty level in most cases, and the federal poverty level is a whole other
Oh,
story because it's
yes.
also completely under what is actually required to survive. But basically, Social Security disability insurance gives people with disabilities their retirement benefits early because they're
Mm,
unable to work.
got it.
SSI is a needs-based program for people who are too disabled or too elderly to work. And so it's for people who don't have a reliable work history. The actual application for both programs is literally the same application.
Mm,
And so I help them with it and to really understand what to expect and what to anticipate with the system because The process of these applications is really soul crushing,
Mm,
to put it nicely.
wow.
And it's all about describing you how you failed as a human being and are unable to support yourself.
Mm,
And so it's about explaining your condition, describing how your disabilities prevent you from activities of daily living and working, and really getting extremely personal and intimate about what your body is doing or not doing so that the employees at Social Security can decide if you're disabled enough to get the benefits. Yeah, it's a very tough process. And I try to help people be prepared for it, understand the steps, and protect their mental health while they're doing so. Because, like I said, it's a very painful and difficult process, but I try to help people shift it into more of a healing process where they can take the time to grieve
mm,
the losses that are involved in being or becoming disabled
mm.
and help them get to their next steps.
It sounds like you're really there to hold their hand and walk them
Mhm.
through the entire process, which is awesome because it sounds like a really daunting type of situation. And doesn't sound like anybody would want to really go at that alone. And I could only imagine for those who actually do what that process looks like. Now, you
Mhm.
mentioned something really key about grieving the
Mhm.
situation. Could you expand a little bit more on that?
Yes. So there's a couple of levels to it. The first thing is usually becoming disabled is a loss of some sort. You've lost the abled image of who you were, even if somebody's been living with some disabling conditions much of their life. Because of the way societal ableism is, you tend to ignore them and put them to the side and be like, oh, that's just a little thing I have to do. And otherwise, I'm fine. So I'm fine.
Right.
And deciding to apply for disability is one of those breaking points. It's impossible to need disability coverage and be fully abled.
Mm,
Literally, it's not possible because the way the programs work is you can only get the assistance if your income is under what they call substantial gainful activity,
mm.
which they consider like the minimum amount you can survive on. And for 2024, substantial gainful activity was $1,550 a month.
Whoa. In
Yeah.
US, huh? In the US.
In the US, in
Wow.
2024, that's substantial gainful activity.
Mm,
So if you earn any amount of income over that, you are absolutely categorically unable to get or apply for Social Security disability benefits. If you're near that amount, they're going to ask, why aren't you working that little bit more? There is a belief that you have to be completely incapable of doing any work in order to get disability. And technically, that's not true.
okay.
But you have to prove that you can't do any more than what you are doing if you're working at all. Whereas if you aren't working, you have to prove that you're too disabled to work and not that you're choosing not to work. So it's not pretty either way, but it's really, we're talking about very small amounts of money.
It's totally insane, but I get it as far as to how they have the rules laid out to make sure folks qualify and stay within their program limitations, which then now leads me to ask you as a disabled individual receiving your benefits and now creating this wonderful business that you have to help so many others. How does that work for you? Are you working on a volunteer basis or do you charge your clients? How does that balance out for you to make sure you're still qualified?
All right. So basically, the way that works is I help my clients at a relatively low rate. I know I am charging less than somebody doing similar services would
Right.
because I know that most of the people who are applying are also struggling.
Mhm.
So I have a relatively low rate.
Right.
That's the first thing.
Okay.
I also am very aware of the way the laws work because another service I actually offer people is helping them figure out how to work while on disability. The long
Okay.
term goal for them and for me may be to get off of benefits. The initial goal is to figure out how much you can sustainably work, because the key thing is to protect your health.
Right.
Health is wealth. And when you're living with a disability, that becomes super apparent. My goal for myself and my clients is always prioritize your self care, focus on not doing more than you can handle at any given time, and keep an eye on the different programs that support you so that you know when, if, and how you might surpass their limits and become ineligible, and make sure that if you're going to do that, you've got a plan to make up for that lost support. So,
Got
like for me, I'm going to be staying under what's called the trial work level, which is the amount of money where Social Security starts counting your income and doing a countdown to ending your benefits.
it.
I stay below that number every month so that I'm not going to have to worry about losing my benefits. Then, if I reach a point I feel like I could safely go above, I have to plan everything so that within 9 months, which is the trial work period, I'm going to be earning about 5 times as much and have a beginnings of a plan for finding an alternative healthcare service to Medicare. I do have 7 years from when the trial work period ends to when my Medicare ends, maybe a little longer,
Mhm.
but the clock starts ticking
Wow.
as soon as I go over the numbers.
Mm.
So for me and for anyone I work with, it's about these are the rules, these are the limits, these are the ceilings you don't want to surpass, and let's plan how you can do that. That's how I think about all of it,
Yeah.
because I have to protect myself and I don't want to offer it for free because I would eventually like to get off the programs, but I only want to get off them if that's sustainable and I can not go back on.
That's awesome, actually. People don't understand it is a little twofold because even though there is that income level that you cannot surpass, or just the rules in general based around just the income portion, they forget there's that healthcare portion too. And the minute you go ahead and work outside of that box, like you said, you're over the limit, you're making 5 times this. Whoa, great. But if you're only making 2 times the amount, that's not going to help you with your actual medical bills and the care that you constantly need on a daily basis. That is enlightening.
Yeah, it's very scary. And a lot of people are so afraid of losing their benefits that they get into a very bad space mentally and emotionally because they feel like they can't work at all because they're so afraid of losing their benefits. And that fear is very realistic, unfortunately. And it can cause some really deep depression and emotional spiraling because so many people place so much of their value on their ability to work and on their ability to earn income because of the way our society functions. So I view part of my job as the central point is you're worthy in and of yourself. So let's talk about how you survive given that so much is against you
Mm.
and you're facing so many challenges. Let's explain the challenges, understand the challenges, give them shape so that you can be prepared, anticipate the problems, and solve them in advance if possible.
I love it because you know what? Everyone is worthy of being seen. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and the other part of it is disability is the only identity that anyone can join at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I happen to be a white woman. I happen to be part of the LGBT community.
Mm.
But you know what? There's also a lot of people with every race, every gender, every color who are or become disabled.
Right.
And I'm really aware of the intersectionality issues. And so the more minority identities you have, the more likely you are to be mistreated
Mm.
for any of them.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot more white women than anybody else talking about disability related things, especially chronic illness. And I think part of that is this may be one of the first times they're recognizing any kind of severe bias or minority identity. And it's also something that you're not necessarily born with or born into. Many people join the disability community as teenagers, as adults,
Right.
as you age. And so you have a definitive before and after in a lot of these cases. And so you see the difference.
I see how, and it definitely it can happen in an instant. Your life can change in an instant. God forbid, car accident. People don't think about these things. It's so easy to change and have this be a part of your life or your new life. Wow.
One little thing to add to that is because it is so easy to unintentionally join this community, it also means people are very afraid to really look at or think about disability because that's acknowledging that you could be there too. My skin color is not going to change overnight. My orientation isn't going to change overnight, but you can become disabled overnight.
Yeah.
And when somebody becomes disabled, they're more likely to become socially isolated because people don't want to be reminded that could happen to them. That's one of the pieces of that social isolation that so many disabled people experience. There's a lot of emotions attached to that. And so a part of me is, celebrate it. It may not be what you wanted in your life, but you can learn valuable lessons and you can build something better.
100%, just like you did, because like you said, it can happen to anyone, and that is the reality of the situation. So I must ask you, because you did touch on it just a little bit before, with all the work that you do for others and still maintaining your health and finding that work life and even disability balance, what does self-love and care look like for you?
A big part of it is just the really simple things. Drink plenty of water, try to eat healthy, get exercise, things like that. And so and in my case in particular, but it's useful for many people, I also try to maintain like a meditation and mindfulness practice. The condition I have, F.U.N, is actually extremely responsive to stress. And so keeping a balance is super important. So the other big part of it is I have to have, as much as I can, my work be a secondary or tertiary concern. My paid job is not my primary job. My most important job is take care of me. After I take care of me, I help take care of my family. After that, then the energy I've got left might go into my business. But my first most important job is take care of me.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us and spending time with us and sharing your wisdom and all that you do and offer. Where's the best place that our listeners can go to connect with you?
All right. So my website is thrivingwelldisabled.com. I am on most social media. My handle is generally Thriving Well Disabled. I also have a book forthcoming. It should be out April 12th, which is the day before FND Awareness Day.
Oh, wow.
And that book is going to be Thriving Well Disabled, Navigating Disability Finances.
Awesome. Good luck with all of that. Thank you so very much.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. This has been lovely.
So the good news is disability doesn't have to be the end all, be all to your story. Everyone's story is different. We're all here for a unique purpose. So no matter where you stand on the spectrum of ableism, you have the power to utilize everything you've got to make a difference, to make an impact, and be the change you want to see in the world. What would you do if tomorrow you woke up and everything was different? Come on over to Instagram at BC Network. Drop me a DM and let me know how you felt about this episode and this topic particularly. Until we meet again, fill your cup first and share from the overflow. Spread love and light wherever you go. See you in the next episode. Bye. Hey there. If you've enjoyed the show, head on over to bcnetwork.com to join the community. Please make sure to follow and rate the show. Feel free to go ahead and take a screenshot to show you were listening and tag me on Instagram at bcnetwork. Let's meet and connect so I can show you some love over there. Thank you so much for being here. Light and love always. Be well.